Imagine with me, you're 11 years old, you're hanging out in your room, just minding your own business, when your mom comes in carrying a book. First, you get excited. You love books. You love learning new things. But your mom seems a bit nervous and a bit shifty, so you ask her what's up. And she says to you, I know you've been going through some things, sweetie, so I got you this to help explain some of them to you. The book is about sex. Specifically, it's about how sex is horrible, how all of your relationships will end in tears, and how you will probably die of an STD or pregnancy, maybe both if you're lucky. Imagine being 11 and reading all of this. Imagine it was your mother who put that book in your hands. Now, amplify that by about 100, and you'll get a sense of how children nowadays feel when we talk to them about social media. See, there's this notion that kids born in the last 10 years or so are digital natives. And what this means is that they're really good at technology. They can do so many fantastic things, things we cannot possibly imagine. But because they lack the experience and emotional maturity, they will not be able to notice risk until it is much too late. And because there's no adults to moderate this virtual room, well, the whole endeavor is doomed to failure from the beginning. The only thing that we have thought about that we can possibly do is to scare the life out of children and keep them off social media for as long as possible. And isn't that just a great idea? Here's the thing, though. Digital natives isn't a thing. We know it's not a thing. We've known for over 10 years. Every large-scale study that has been done on the topic has found that there's no link between your age and how you use social media. And there is some links, but there's no definitive link between your age and how risk-tolerant you are on social media. You would not notice, however, if you look at any guidance that's been published for teachers or for parents. You would not notice if you open a newspaper and you read about children and social media technologies. We are in love with the idea of the digital native. We are in love with the idea that children need to be scared into submission. So, as you can probably imagine, I did not want to perpetuate this when I went and did my own field work. I did not see any value in adding to that. So I wondered, what can I possibly do to change that? What can I possibly do to give children their own voice? So I decided, well, let's play a game. Let's give the families a chance to role-play some scenarios together and to see what comes out of that. So I made about 40 of these cards. I gave children and their parents an ID, a background, and a goal. And those were all the guidelines that they were given. That's all that they were given. Props goes to my friends because we spent many pub hours working on these scenarios. But the goal was not so much to find the bad person in these role plays. The goal was to see how people responded to risk. The goal was to see at what point do you say, I don't like this? At what point do you say, ooh, I'm not comfortable with this? At what point do you say, actually, don't want to talk to you anymore? Thank you very much. And the results were quite interesting to me, and hopefully they will be to you. So first things first, in line with all the studies that I had read before I went into this, there was no definitive link between age and how risk-tolerant you were. In fact, if you want to be nitpicky, parents seemed a lot more risk-tolerant than their children as far as the game was concerned. I'm not going to draw any conclusions from that because it's a small sample, and we like to say that in the sciences. But what was more interesting to me was the fact that the children and the parents were able to spot the risky scenarios at about the same rate. So it wasn't just that children blocked the same number of scenarios as their parents. They recognized when it was a dangerous, risky person that they were talking to. They recognized that someone was genuinely friendly. They recognized that this was a good interaction. So that was very powerful to me because, again, some of the things that we see in our daily practices imply that actually children don't understand, but they do, and they pay very close attention. The last thing, the thing that I think was the most interesting about all of my research was that the bit where the boundaries got blurred, the bit where people struggled the most, was when risk came from within your social circle. When it was a friend of a friend who acted just a bit off, or a childhood friend who suddenly didn't like you very much, or even a friend of your parents who is genuinely very nice to you, but is suddenly starting to push makeup on you very, very aggressively. And that's when people struggled a lot. That's when both adults and children felt like, well, what do I do here? Do I just block this person? Do I just say, this is not okay? What's going to happen? Are my friends going to stop speaking to me? That was very powerful, because what's often missing in all of these stories that we see about children being at risk on social media is that risk online, it doesn't start up here. There's usually a small boundary push, and then another, and then another, and then another, until the recipient of the aggressive behavior or the grooming or just the general cyberbullying feels like they can't say no anymore. They feel like, oh, well, I said yes to that, so therefore I can't say no anymore. Or I tolerated this so much, I might as well just keep going. They'll get bored, they'll move on. Surely it's fine, but it's not fine. It's how risk happens. And being able to teach people about boundaries early on and saying, do you know what, it's fine if you don't like this person. It's fine if you block them. It's fine if you say, actually, I don't like you this much anymore, is good and it is healthy. This is where I get a bit divisive, and you may take this as you wish. When we lead with fear, when we tell children that they should be scared of social media and they should be scared of their fellow social media users, we're not communicating, I'm concerned about you. We are communicating, I don't understand your life. I don't care to learn about your life, and I don't care if your friends decide to stop talking to you just because you're not on Facebook anymore. I see you as a problem to be managed. So how do you think that makes children feel? What do you think happens when children actually run into a problem that they want your help with, but they feel like they can't trust you? The reason why all of these studies that I cited earlier on, and many more like them, are not filtering through to newspapers, to guidance, to government policies, in my opinion, is because the lessons that we can draw from them are very uncomfortable ones. The lesson is that we need to trust each other more, that we need to communicate with each other, that we need to listen to each other and leave space in our relationships, not just to be free and to make mistakes, but also to be wrong. To say, you know what, this did not turn out great, but let's find a way forward. Let's find a way to move past this, and let's find a way to build and learn from that. We don't leave that space, and it is very, very difficult. And yet we have to, because just like with sex, we've got to talk to children about social media. Thank you.